All right, hello everyone. Due to there seemed to be enough support in the last video I made about my topping deck list for K9 Crystron, so I decided to make a full combo guide for at least the main 9 combos. I will post a spreadsheet in the comments below if you want more in depth and a few more of the more nuanced situations that I just won't be covering today. So yeah, I'll be covering 8 combos today in this video, and hope you enjoy, and I'll explain what I'm doing for this as well. Let's start with the inclusion 1-card combo. So yeah, just activate inclusion, could Salvador is Salvador pop inclusion. And then this instance you want a foolish, Smiger and Sofnir. You could instead of Sofnir you could foolish Tristros, but that makes you end on less inboard pieces. So that's why we're doing Sofnir here. And then you almost always want to send Smiger. All right, and then Smiger effect, add cluster, because there's no other way you're getting cluster besides adding it in this instance because you already activated inclusion. Activate Solfnir to summon itself, pop itself, then a new chain, summon Tristros, summon Electros, add back cluster, Tristros, popping it, summon 2. Right here, I'm going to repeat this probably many times throughout this video, but when you activate Tristros' effect, make sure you have at least one more level 5 Crystron inside the deck. Because otherwise, Tristros won't be able to summon from deck unless you activate Cluster first, which is a very rough restriction because sometimes you want to go into your spell chapter gate beforehand. So and if that is the case, you haven't activated inclusion yet, or sorry, if you're out of level 5 Crystrons in deck, and you haven't activated inclusion yet, you're going to need to summon a level 5 back, just go into Dragstar on your own turn instead of summoning back Electros. So, yeah. Yep, Electros effect summoning back Crystros, Nova Infinity, inclusion, bring that back, and set inclusion, because this gives the double pop, and when they activate something, spell trap negate, and then omni negate. All right. Let's do the 1-card Foolish. So for this, you activate Foolish and Smiger. Activate Smiger, get inclusion. You're going to see that these look fairly similar. Inclusion for Salvador, Salvador popping inclusion. Then this time, we can't also foolish Solveneer because we won't have any other option to get cards left in hand. As showed in the spreadsheet though, the correct things to do if you're playing this turn is to send this turn and actually no, I don't think that's correct for this line. So yeah, what you do with this line, just send both those because since already inclusion's in the graveyard, you can summon that back. So yeah, that summon back Tristros, some Electros, add back cluster, Tristros pop 2, make sure you have an extra one in deck, which you do. Summon Electros effects on the back, Nova Infinity, and set that. So as you see, this you don't have the inclusion to bring this back, so it is worse than just the pure inclusion combo, but it is still a 1-card combo that does give you 1, 2, 3 points of interaction. And if they hand trapped you, like normally you don't have to end on this, but if they hand trapped you enough that you have to end on only the Crystron stuff, it is good enough to beat most hands. And even if they're just brick, for example, and only have a few points of starting stuff, 3 points of interaction is by far more than enough. All right, let's go into the next one. Then this will be the 1-card Smiger combo. Oh, if you just open this up in your hand, so you normal it, and you go into Clockwork Knight. You're able to go into Clockwork Knight because it requires a machine with 1,000 or less, which this does fit. That's part of why this turn is so rough, because it's 1,500 attack, not 1,000. If it was 1,000, you would see a lot more play of it, because then it's not really ever a brick. Yep, so then Smiger, get inclusion. Inclusion, Salvador, you've seen this before, Salvador pop inclusion. Yep, Sim cluster and Tristeros. Inclusion effects on back Tristeros, summon Electros, get back cluster, Tristress effect popping that, summoning 2 from deck. And then there's that, yep. Electros effect, summoning back Tristros, Nova Infinity. There's that. One thing I did not show in this replay is what you should probably do now is use Infinity that effect to suck up Clockwork Knight, because Clockwork Knight's not ever going to do anything on the board, and that gives us another material plus 200 more attack. So that may come up. I don't think there's anything that's 2700 that would beat over this, but there might be in these situations that will. So yeah, same end board is like that. Okay, then for the last pure one card combo is the Scrap Recycler 1-card combo. This one can get fairly janky depending on how your opening hand looks, but this is pretty easy. Like just in Smyger, add inclusion, and it's just the foolish line from here. Yep, it's just pretty much saying you burn your normal summon, which you didn't even use in this, which you would have used in the normal Smyger line, just to foolish it instead. So there's really no difference in this line, but it is a good thing to know because there will be times where this comes up, where you just have that, but it's the exact same line. Yep, get those two, activate that, summon back Justros, summon Nova Affinity, and that's the end board. Same exact one. I didn't suck it up, and I didn't go into Clockwork Knight again. You could if you really wanted to. I don't really see the point. Or sorry, I should have sucked up this to add the extra 100 200 attack, but there's no really reason to go into Clockwork Knight in this situation. All right, for the 1.5 card combos, it's the Sulfonier one. So this combo is Sulfonier plus any Crystron name. It doesn't really change. The only thing is you get Cluster or Tristros, you just swap them over when you're sending them off a Sulfador. So I'll point that out when that comes up. Yeah, Sulfonier effect, discard Cluster, summon itself, pop itself, Nuo Chain, affect the summon, Smyger. So the reason why you summon Smyger here is because you could summon Sulfador immediately, but if they have Imperm or Song of the Dominators or Effect Veiler or anything that interacts with that, you're just screwed. Where is if you get Smyger here and then go into Clockwork Knight and then Smyger effect get inclusion and go on, so on. Then inclusion get Sulfador. You can at least make an infinity play because as shown, you get inclusion get Sulfador, Sulfador pop inclusion. Yep. And then on the activation of this effect, the Foolish 2, if they imperm you or Song of Dominators or anything like that, you still can go into Infinity because you inclusion, summon back Sulfonier, go into Nova, go into Infinity, and that at least you have 1 point of interaction with this instead of just having 0, which is something you should be aware of. So, yep. Again, since you're not playing this turn, you do need to send inclusion and Tristros. You can think, why can't I send another Sulfonier? And that is because you won't have enough names to quick synchro on your opponent's turn without activating Cluster first if you do that. You're going to go through all 5 names, which is something you really don't want, and there's no reason to say it. And plus, the second inclusion gives you follow-up on the next turn, which is why you'd want a second inclusion there. Yeah, inclusion effects, summon Tristros, summon Electros add back Cluster, Tristros pop, summon 2, yep, summon back Tristros, summon Nova, summon Infinity, set. So yeah, with the, I didn't actually talk about it, I forgot. But if you, on the Foolishing of Sulfador, you saw we sent Inclusion and Tristros. If you already sent Tristros from your hand to graveyard, you just send Cluster instead. That's the only difference. So yeah, that's the 1.5 card combo line for that. And then let's do the 1.5 card combo for K9. So this is just Joko plus any level 5. The easiest is to show it with another Joko since they can both summon themselves. So yeah, it's Joko, reveal, summon both. Joko effect to add Lantern. I have been contemplating if this is actually the correct thing to do, because if you get drolled here, you're kind of fine, because but you're also not really fine. So what you could do if you're really worried about a lot of hand traps is you could go not activate the effect until you summon Ripper, and then with the Lantern target, then with Ripper you get Lantern, and then Lantern you target to activate effect on the resummon. I don't think that's correct because in this instance you burn a Song of the Dominators or Imperm or something in case they're playing Yummy, for example, and not playing Effect Veiler or Ash or something like that. So that is how I would recommend doing it. But your testing may differ. Your locals may be very different, and they might play differently or just have unique hand traps for situations. So that's why you'd want to do this. Like if, for example, if your locals group plays a lot of Ogre, for example, Ogre and DD Crow, like they could Ogre it, and then when you target it with Lantern, they could DD Crow, and that would be turn ending. So just things to be aware of. Make sure to edit this towards your local groups and just not to copy and paste. Make sure to think about it. So yeah, now back to it. Add Lantern, go into Ripper, Ripper effect, detach, add Case of K9. Yep. Then Lantern target Joe summon them both. Lantern effect, add Force Release to your hand. Go into River Stormer effect. So one thing you are noticing as well, it didn't really matter in this situation since it was double Jokul, but you always want to detach Jokul, especially if you're playing more than one Lantern, because Lantern can not target a level 5 Pyro, which it is. So there are situations where you want to make sure that it's a non-level 5 Pyro in Graveyard, which Jokul's is not. It's an Aqua. So that's why you almost always want to detach that, and it's just a good habit to get into so you don't say, oh no, I can no longer summon Lantern, and that just stops the whole turn. But yeah, now on the Scrap Recycler, your normal Scrap Recycler effect, Flawless Smiger, go into Clockwork Knight, target Scrap Recycler, and then send River Stormer to Graveyard on the special of Scrap Recycler, Flawless Sulfador. One thing you can do here, if you have spots in the extra deck, is instead of activating Smiger right here, you could River Stormer effect, tribute Clockwork Knight to summon it back, then go into IP, because IP requires non-link monsters. I believe you see here, I just go into SP because I'm not playing IP, but if you feel like you need the extra spots or extra removal on your end board, you can get that with IP as well, because you do, after you burn Dragster, for example, you could just go into, use IP with it to go into SP for a banish. Yep, then Smiger effect, add inclusion, activate inclusion, get cluster. You do this because you're going to want one on field for Sulfador and then one in hand for Sulfaneer, because you don't want to burn the inclusion summon back effect unless you absolutely have to. It's kind of the last resort thing you want to use because it's so good. So you just want to activate that for that, and not just get a Spiger at cluster, because then you couldn't summon Sulfador. Yeah. Then Sulfador effect, pop inclusion. You're going to Foolish, another inclusion plus Sulfaneer. The second inclusions for follow-up, and Sulfaneers to get Tristros. Yep, discard that, pop itself, new chain, summon Tristros. Go into Electros, add back cluster. Tristros, summon 2 from deck. And then Electros effect, summon back Tristeros. Go into Nova, go into Infinity. Inclusion effect is summon back this. You want to use this at the very end just in case you get interrupted or something. And then this adds the double pop. Then add that for Azuna. And then just set 2. So yeah, this is a very powerful end board because you have the SP, you have a hand graveyard, you have an Omni, you have a spell trap, you have a double pop, and you have another pop plus a hand rip once you go into Werewolf, if they activate another thing after that. So you have 3 pops, spell trap, Omni, SP, and hand rip, which is very, very powerful. So that's why I don't think playing IP is correct at the moment, because you don't really need another banish at this point. But if your locals just is able to play through everything, it might be worth adding an IP. All right, and now let's go on to the full 2 card combos that I have prepared. So the first one is Joku plus Sulfador. This will be your bread and butter combo. If you have the opportunity to do this, this is the mainline combo you should go for. It's able to play through the most, as well as just be the most powerful for consistency's sake. And that's why you're maxing out on both of these names as well. So yeah, Joku, reveal Sulfador, summon them both. Sulfador on special to Foolish 2. You're going to Foolish Smiger plus Sulfnir, Smiger to Inclusion, and Inclusion to get Cluster, and then you're going to discard Cluster later. And then another thing that hasn't been talked a whole lot about yet is the locks of the deck. So the locks of the deck are when this special summons itself, and when the little guys use their effects on field to summon from deck. That's the only locks. Oh, and then Tristros has a lock as well, but that's rather unimportant because that's only the on-field lock when it's special summons from deck. So the only lock you need to be really super careful of is activating the effect of special summon, Sulfador's effect, the special summon itself. Otherwise, unless you really mess up, there's no other lock you really need to pay attention to in the deck. Because last thing, you never activate the effects on field of this. Just never. It's not worth it. It's, yeah, just don't. So yeah, Foolish those two, add that, add Lantern. Go into Ripper effect, and then once again, as you see, I detached Jokool because you need that in graveyard for Lantern. You add Case of K9, Lantern effect, target Jokool, summon them both. Lantern effect to add Forced Release. Go into River Stormer effect, add Scrap Recycler, normal Scrap Recycler, ascend Sulfador. You need to send Sulfador here because the second one's under Ripper. And then as you'll see later, we're not going to have an extra one in deck, so we're going to have to summon Drakestar on our turn instead of your opponent's turn. So yep, go into SP there, because you don't want to send any more to graveyard because you've already, with Scrap Recycler, because you've already not going to have enough, and then if you send even another name, you're not even going to have enough to summon 2 from deck off of Tristros' effect, popping Electros. So that's why you just go into SP right there, or IP if you play it. So yep, Spiker effect, add Inclusion to add Cluster, and then yep, Sulfenir, discarding Cluster, summon itself, pop itself, new chain, summon Tristros, Sulfador effect, popping Inclusion, and then this is where you locked into machines from the extra deck. Right after that summon. And then go into Electros effect, add back Cluster, Tristros, summon 2, then Electros effect, summon back you, Nova, Infinity, Inclusion effect to summon back Sulfador, and then go into Dragster because you, as seen, we already spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you don't play the 6th Sulfenir, so you have to go through this on your turn until you're only going to get 1 pop or 2 pops with Force Release. 2 pops instead of 3, which it shouldn't matter, but you do need, that's why you always want to double count to make sure you have enough in deck. Yep, and then add Case of K9, add Azuna, and set Force Release. So yeah, you're just missing 1 pop from the previous end board, but it's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points of interaction for their 6 cards in hand. So you should be good still, but just keeps a heads up. All right, then I have one more, which is the Jokool K9, or sorry, Jokool Lantern. Like if these are the only level 5s, what do you do in this situation? Because it does deviate from the mainline combo. Because since you're only playing 1 Lantern instead of 2, you can't just search Lantern off of Jokool just to continue mainline combos, and that's why sometimes people do play 2 for this exact situation. I don't think it's worth it. I think the end board you end on is still good enough, but that's for you to decide in your own deck building. So Jokool, reveal Lantern, summon them both. Jokool effect to add Azuna. You want to do that first, because if they draw you here, you still have Azuna to go into another XYZ. Whereas if you activate Lanterns first, if they draw you, you're kind of screwed. So yep, then Lantern, add Case of K9, You don't want to go into force release here because unless they activate a hand trap, you just can't afford to go into river. So that's just heads up there. So yeah, go into river stormer, detach, add scrap recycler, normal scrap recycler, effect, full Schmeiger, go into clockwork knight, and then, yep, target scrap recycler, summon it back, on special, foolish, Sulfador, go into SP, Schmeiger, add inclusion, activate inclusion for cluster, then Sulfador, popping inclusion, summon itself, effect, foolish, once again, inclusion and Sulfador, or Sulfaneer, not Sulfador, Sulfaneer, Sulfaneer, discard, summon, pop, new chain, summon Tristros, get Electris, add back cluster, yep, pop it 2, then Electris, summon back, go into Nova, go into Infinity, inclusion, summon back, because as you see, we've only gone through 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, so we still have 1 in deck, so that means we can summon back Electris in this situation, instead of having to summon back Salvador to go into Drake's turn on our turn. Cool. Set 1, activate case for Jokul. So in case they don't have activate any cards in hand and you can't summon Azuna, you have pure follow-up. This is 100% full-on combo, especially since you didn't use Ripper on your opponent's turn, or Ripper on your first turn. So yeah, this end board is 1 spell trap, 2 pops, 1 Omni, and SP. It is only 5 points of interaction for their 6 cards in hand if they didn't interrupt you, but in more situations they can't play through 5 points of interaction. The end board's strong enough. So there is that. And do be aware, it may not seem like it, but it does have a bonus effect besides just granting cluster pop 2. It does make your opponent's stuff lose 500 attack defense, which can come up in yummy matchups. If they only have 3 yummies, they can't beat over stuff because the bonuses off of their field spell only is 500 per, and then you reduce it down to 2. They just don't have, it's 1,000 attack then instead of 1,500 bonus. So yeah, just aware of. Let me know if you have any more questions. The spreadsheet will be in the description below for more in-depth combos that I just wasn't able to give to you. I'm not going to go over how opponents hand trapped you and what to do in each situation. I believe that with enough practice, everyone here can learn the optimal lines once they learn the basics of the deck. It's, as you've seen through this video, it's a lot of repeating the same stuff over and over again with very little variances here and there, depending on what's in your opening hand, what effects you can and can't activate, and making sure to play around the Salvador lock. So yeah, thank you for all the comments in the last video. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to cover regarding this deck, and have a great day. Thanks. Bye.